Next April, Newsround enters the pantheon of fame. There are very, very few programmes that have been on air continuously for 4 decades and are still as damn good as they were when they began. But Blue Peter is there, Corrie is there, Panorama is there, and ladies and gentlemen, as we watch just a few of the special moments, let us appreciate the 40 years that Newsround will soon have been on our screens.
First on BBC One, John Craven's Newsround.
This is Newsround.
Hello again.
Hello again.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello there,
Hello.
friends. Check your watches. I make it just about 5:05.
I certainly did grow up watching Newsround, and it was the programme that got me interested in news. I suspect I speak for all of us who've ended up working in this part of the industry, that we were fired up by watching Newsround and by watching John Craven and his amazing jumpers in particular.
Winnie the Pooh is in danger.
Ever since Newsround got this smart new desk, we've had lots of letters asking what this is for.
I worked with John Craven long before he went to Newsround, when he was working in the television newsroom. He just went bonkers for Newsround, really. He recognised that it was one of the great jobs in television. To have an audience of intelligent children who want to know what's going on in the world is an incredible privilege, and John recognised that. He did it very well.
Newsround's got an amazing past, and most of us who've worked in BBC News, one way or another, have ended up doing something for Newsround. And many of our biggest stars have spent a lot of time on Newsround.
This is Michael Burke for Newsround in Aberdeen.
It's not perfect, perhaps, but it's certainly audible.
I think I learned more about journalism on Newsround than anywhere else I've worked, and I've probably had more fun.
At sea, they'll have to deal with icebergs. And when they get to Greenland, as well as having to climb the mountain, they could come face to face with polar bears.
Unlike other jobs in journalism, you've got to do an incredible range of stories.
That was a bit too close.
Literally, one day you could be reporting on devastation, earthquakes, flooding, that kind of thing. The next day you could be at a pantomime cow convention. And of course, we got some great world exclusives as well.
Only one TV programme, ours, was allowed onto the movie set.
Found out that you could audition by sending a picture of yourself and some information to Newsround.
Nice to meet you. How are you doing? This is what it's like when you interview a member of the royal family. I'm going to wish Alice the best of luck. Let's leave her to it.
Don't worry about that.
One of the most crucial things that Newsround does is that it helps explain very difficult and tragic stories. During my time at Newsround, for example, Princess Diana died, so we had to handle it very sensitively and explain why the nation was reacting in the way that it was.
The body of Princess Diana has been brought here to a private chapel. All day, people have been queuing to sign their names in a book of tributes to her.
3.5 hours ago, 2 of the United States' biggest cities were hit by massive terrorist explosions.
That's one of the most crucial roles that Newsround fulfills, is not to frighten the children that are watching it, but just to take them through very difficult stories gently and give them a real sense of the reality of the story, so that you don't overplay it, you don't frighten children, but you also don't deny them the facts.
This used to be a playground, and the frames of the swings here have been turned into shelters.
I've been watching soldiers go in to Afghanistan for years on the TV, but to be actually going out with them now feels pretty crazy.
This is Dadaab, the biggest refugee camp in the world. Hundreds of thousands of people have come here because they have nowhere else to go.
You had to tell the story in a way that people who knew absolutely nothing about what was going on would be able to understand. And that's an incredibly difficult thing to do.
This is John Humphreys for Newsround in Salisbury, Rhodesia.
I think the programme really comes into its own through Newsround specials when it dedicates 10 or 15 minutes to one subject that really affects the audience.
I didn't tell my friends about what I was drinking because I felt that they might take the mick out of me and call me names and that. Nobody understood what it was like for me because the teachers always used to tell me to sit down when I got angry and everything, and they don't know what I was going through.
Children are fascinated by news. They want to know what's going on in the world. They want to tell their friends, they want to tell their family, they want to tell their parents, they want to tell them all about this kind of stuff, and they feel a real need to know about the world they're growing up in.
Britain's education bosses have sharply attacked the government's plans to make more cuts in school spending.
They're here outside Parliament in London to make sure their voices get heard and to make sure that the government know just how upset they are that the Building Schools for Future programme has been scrapped.
Newsround has changed so much in its 40-year existence, but it's still as relevant today as it was when it first started, because no one else does anything quite like it. No one else champions kids and allows kids to have that kind of voice and explains to kids what's going on in their world.
What do you want to get out of Gordon Brown?
Some good answers.
We're not letting go without really good answers. The young carers in the country, how are you going to identify them and give them all the help that they need?
Even at a moment when children have got so many other ways of finding out about news, Newsround is still the go-to place, and I think that's going to continue for many years to come.
Congratulations on the award. Very, very richly deserved. May you win many more of them in the years and decades to come.
I can't think of a programme that deserves it more.
I'm very proud to have been a part of it.
Huge congratulations to the current Newsround team. You really deserve this award. This is a fantastic show, and long may it reign.
For 39 years, Newsround's been one of the real jewels in the BBC's crown, and we're incredibly proud of it and everything it's done. So many, many congratulations.
Well, that's all from Newsround today. See you again at the same time tomorrow. Until then, bye-bye. You know, a lot of people in our business tend to be remembered for programmes which they personally would prefer to forget. But I'm terribly proud of Newsround, always have been. And it does come as a bit of a shock, though, these days, when people who I think look pretty old come up to me and say, thank you for being part of my childhood. And those shirts and jumpers that Nick mentioned, you know, I thought they were quite subdued at the time.
And the Children's BAFTA Special Award, of course, goes to Newsround. And here are a few of the guys who have been working on it and making it the show that it is over the years. Guys, well done. How are you all feeling?
Right. Over the moon, as they say, aren't we?
Yeah, really are.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Fantastic.
A real honour, I think.
Yeah. Now, has anyone, over the last 40 years, got one piece that you've done, one news story that you think has been stand out and influenced kids over many years? Maybe you've come back to it, maybe it's been a story that's been repeated, or something that just, would you say, marks Newsround and its ethos?
That is an incredibly difficult question.
Yeah, I know.
I did 3,000 bulletins, and there must have been another 5,000 or 6,000 since then, you know, with 5 or 6 stories on each bulletin. Obviously, some really do stand out. I mean, the death of Princess Diana, I suppose, the Challenger blowing up in space.
I remember
all
that
sorts
when
of
I was
things.
a kid. They covered that really well. Now, what goes into choosing some of the pieces that you do? What makes you think, kids would actually be interested in that? Kids need to know that rather than this story.
Oh no, Owenna, the current editor.
Yes.
And I think basically what's interesting about winning this award and reading what John Craven and Edward have said about it is our editorial judgment is actually the same now as it was 40 years ago. So we try and cover, you know, the biggest stories that we think children will be aware of and that they'll hear their parents talking about, and we explain it in a way that they will make sense to them. But then also fun stories, things that are much more child-focused. And so it's a mixture of, you know, adult news stories and things that are just much more child-focused.
Yeah.
And I think it's a tremendous privilege for all of us who worked on Newsround that the nation's parents have trusted us for 40 years to tell their children things which are often quite uncomfortable and which probably there were no other adults in the room at the time.
Yeah.
That is an amazing bond of trust, I think, that we've developed over the years.
Yeah.
Now, you guys have just moved home because it's gone from London up to Manchester. What does the future hold for Newsround?
Well, I think as Owenna said, we'll just continue to make the news the way that we have for the last 40 years. You know, our audience has always been at the centre of what we do, and we always make sure that we tell the news in a way that's going to keep kids informed and educated and also entertained in that way. So regardless of where we are, we're always going to try and do that. And I think, it's onwards and upwards from here. We're doing a great job. So why not change? Why not keep the recipe as it is, if you like.
Now, Sonali Anore, you've been presenting on this show for quite a while now. I think there's a moment in everyone's life when they think, oh, I'd love to be a Newsround presenter. What is the funnest thing about being on the show?
Mine was working with Son, if I could say.
Our rehearsals.
If you could see the outtakes of us working. No, I think it is. Again, just looking at the audience, and I learned some of the things that I still know now from being 6 to 12, and that's always been the way we've looked at Newsround, and being able to having the privilege of being able to tell kids and to educate them at that crucial age that they are. It's such a privilege to be able to go into every day and go, a kid that's 8 today is going to know that until he or she is 80.
The great success of Newsround has always been that it doesn't go on for very long. When we started, there were no zapper buttons, Edward, and things like that. So it's a great effort to get off the couch to turn over the channel. So I reckon in the early days that's why we were successful. Now it's because it doesn't go on for a long, long time. You can, if you're not particularly interested in Newsround, there's another program coming on soon. But by staying there and watching it, you learn all kinds of things, and then you'll watch it again tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, we always did, when we first started, we were terrified. One of the great dangers, because no one had ever done news before, and we knew that from researchers from watching adult news that they hated it. 0.6 used to watch the news at 20. So we were terrified that we would lose the audience. We always did this flash forward thing from presentation. That in 5 minutes it's Grange Hill, but now it's John Craven's Newsround.
I think we still do that.
But the extraordinary thing was that in the end we didn't need to do it because we knew we held the audience, which was.
Well, guys, very well done. 40 years behind your belt. Keep going. Another 40 years. Great work, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.